Hello and welcome to Never on the Back Foot. Now, India slipped to a heartbreaking loss last night at the ICC Under 19 Cricket World Cup, much to our agony. And this loss was very tough for us to swallow because now Australia secured their fourth ICC Under 19 World Cup and defeating India in a third straight ICC tournament final. This time to be crowned new Under 19 champions, because we see how the men in blues luck has been kind of rotten, right? We saw this with the World Test Championship final, the 2023 ODI World Cup final that kind of lives, rent free in our heads. And now this Under 19 World Cup, to kind of add to all the hurt. So this is going to be a tough pill to swallow. But I believe in this live discussion, we'll attempt to put all of this in perspective, stitch the broken pieces of our hearts together and I think seek some much needed closure, right, from what was an otherwise perfect tournament from us. And yeah, joining us for the discussion is Shami, a scientist, cricket expert, all rounder, and a member of Bharat Army. Any adjectives would fall short to describe her and all she's done. And a disclaimer to all our viewers: we did not do live shows after the Ireland match because somewhere we felt, we didn't want to be overconfident Indian fans and, "Are sub jeet lenge," and, have that sort of thing. Eventually, law of averages did catch up with India in the finals, and we will cry about it through this live session as well. But without further ado, let's start off with our discussion. So yeah, Shami, India lost yet another World Cup to the Aussies in South Africa. So does this ring bells of any other losses in the past? And how have you been coping, right? Because Monday blues hit really hard in cases like this.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I think I just spoke to my mother, and I think all of us I should get actually my mother onto this podcast because she just summed it up by saying, "यार समय खराब चल रहा है." तो समय खराब चल रहा है is the answer to everything now. So yeah, I mean, I've started to kind of take it for the fact that चलो ठीक है समय ही खराब चल रहा है. Let's blame the समय as we don't have anything else to blame it for. But yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate for the fact that number one, I think we were really hoping to win this one for the fact that at least in the under 19 stage, we have a great record ahead of Australia. Australia even catching us up on that, it doesn't feel very good. So I think that's my only point to take away from here with respect to the loss. But yeah, I mean, over and above, like we always say, we are proud of the team. We are immensely proud of the team. I think they played fabulous cricket throughout the tournament. And I think that was probably the reason that we didn't come on board and do a live. And we were always thinking that, chalo, fingers crossed, we will not jinx it up. Let the boys do what they do the best. I think it was just an unfortunate day, as we always say. Yeah.
Definitely. And this is not even like a situation where you can say, 15 minutes of bad cricket that kind of deprived us from the World Cup. Because let's start off right from the top, right? Now, Australia won the toss. They opted to bat first. So do you think this was a bad toss for India to lose? And that's where, there was a whole momentum shift and Australia just kind of made the most out of it?
I think yes, of course, in such a in such high pressure situations, of course, the toss plays a good role because that gives you that edge over, that gives you that mental side that gets into it. Also, I mean, I always back the fact. I mean, that's something that I was very stunned about initially when even the on 19th November the toss happened and Pat Cummins chose to bowl. I always feel that in such situations it's always best to go with batting first and. Of course, that was a whole story, whole different story altogether. But in this particular case, yes, of course, batting first, putting some runs on the board, and then letting the team, chase it up was a great strategy. Also saying that 250 odd was always difficult to chase. Uh, it's only like that, I mean, I just give a lot of credits to Australia because of the fact that when they started, definitely there were nerves going on. We had a few early wickets, and they just kept coming back into the game with some partnership or the other. Every time we felt that we have created a breakthrough. Unlike 19th of November, we were pretty much in the game for a very long time in this one, and that's a huge positive, I would say.
Definitely, and I'm glad actually you brought this point up because early wickets did kind of shake Australia up. You could see the nerves, and the Indian team was being loud, and we were getting those consecutive wickets. But eventually, we saw how Harjat Singh and Oliver Peaks, the gritty knocks kind of really made that difference because Australia was suddenly driven to the score of 253, which is
Yeah.
the highest in a under 19 final. So, do you think that partnership was, of course, game changing, and the game was pretty much done and dusted for India because chasing that bigger total in a high pressure stakes match like the final was always going to be hard on us?
Yes, it was supposed to be hard. I mean, and we knew anything above 250, 240, 250 plus 241 was probably the highest ever chased down score in under 19 World Cup final. So 250 was hard, but we had a lot of confidence going in because of the way we have played in the couple of high pressure situation matches in the last couple of in the last couple of games, especially the semi final knock was exceedingly good, and we're hoping that somewhere this can be again replicated. Also, I mean, it was not just a belief out of fandom. It was actually the belief looking at those guys. They seemed pretty calm-headed, especially the way Uday had been really conducting himself. Really, he has been leading the team from the front. It didn't seem and a weird possibility that a 250 can be chased down. But yeah, I mean, yes, of course, the law of averages somewhere starts making a difference. I mean, in the hindsight, it all seems, I mean, a wreck. But yeah, during the entire period of time, I think I had my hopes on. Even when Murugan was playing at the end, somewhere there was a hope that maybe this can be taken up, because at the end we were chasing like 190 odd, and 190 odd. Sometimes, I mean, a good partnership takes you really close. So yeah.
Definitely. And even when you look at India's run chase, you want to do a post-mortem of sorts. Now, of course, losing your batters in the form of Mushir Khan, Arshin Kulkarni, you have lost your skipper Uday Saharand, and even Sachin Das, right? That's pretty much the backbone of India's batting. And we could see how this kind of replicated the kind of starts the senior men's team has, right? Losing those early wickets. You see how they just, for the life of in knockout matches cannot negotiate with that new ball. We could exactly see that copy paste happening here. So somewhere again, India lacked that execution, and that pressure was telling, right? So do you again think those are some of the reasons that can be attributed for this loss? Because in a run chase like this, you need those partnerships to kind of make a difference. But India just seemed nowhere, losing these early wickets.
I think the nerves kind of set in right in the first over. Once that first over went for a maiden, I think that was a kind of something which had wrecked up the nerves a little bit, and we had started to feel that. And especially the way Arshin got out, I think it was a telltale sign that he had actually been taken aback by the fact, and he really wanted to accelerate or come back into the game. Maybe a little bit of patience at that stage could have taken us a little longer. And of course, these are under 19 boys, right? I mean, you cannot expect that amount of immaturity coming in from them. But yeah, I mean, have we had kind of played a little bit of that spell out, played a little bit of a few overs out, I think it could have been a much better scenario. Especially, I think Mushir's wicket right there, in a right after. I mean, he got a life, and then very very much immediately he lost the wicket. I think that kind of wrecked it up all up. Yeah.
Certainly, I think those crucial wickets did, derail India's campaign because we later, I think even we, had a conversation yesterday. Ki, "Arey, Adarsh Singh and Murugan, Abhishek are still batting. There might be some hope, but then target was always going to be an uphill task, right? With the wickets falling, the dot balls kind of, piling on, it was, of course, going to be very difficult. But if you're looking at the journey, right, both the teams have had to the finals undefeated. These are, your best outfits in the under 19 World Cup kind of squaring off against each other. And India has handled this loss, right? Do you think this is going to be a really tough pill for India to swallow? And how do you come out of losses like this? Because at the end of the day, they're under 19 boys, they're young kids. It's very unfortunate to see the kind of hate that they're getting on the internet because It just doesn't make sense. It cannot be justified in any sense. But how do you come out of a loss like this?
See, I mean, one of the classic examples of an under 19 loss was the 2020 under 19 loss against Bangladesh. And look at the kind of guys we have got out of it. We have got Jaiswal out of it. We have got Ravi Bishnoi out of it. So I think the losses have given us the gems as well. And I think it also kind of mentally strengthens you out when you look at a Jaiswal or when you look at a Bishnoi. You know how much groomed they have been through age cricket, and then all of these first class, all of these under 19, the India A scenarios, etc. So I think I think these are the stars in making, and they have certain things about themselves which will of course shine through. So I'm not too bothered about it. I'm just bothered about the Indian fandom that makes us so toxic. But yeah, I think I'm pretty certain that, especially looking at the quality of guys, I mean, what we have seen in an Arshin, what we have seen in a Mushir, what we have seen in Uday, Sachin, Avnish, I think Limbani. I mean, I was so much in awe of that guy. I mean, it looks like a Hardik Pandya in making. I mean, the prime Hardik Pandya that we used to think of. So it pretty much reminded me of him. Naman Tiwari. I think all of these guys look so much ready. I mean, and that is what cricket in this country has become. I mean, they just make you so prepared for the final stage, and when you reach that stage, you just feel like they belong there always. So yeah, I think I'm pretty certain about this crop of people. Looks very very promising. Especially considering that none of them except for Mushid, or I think one of the Avnish or Sachin, except for both of them, nobody has even played first class cricket. But in spite of that, the kind of preparedness that they show, I mean, I'm pretty certain they will be right now. There will be some kind of squad changes in the IPL teams, and some of them will be picked up. So yeah, pretty much looking forward to that.
I agree with you on that point because although we have lost the World Cup, I think the broader context of things, we have superstars in the making, right? These some of them at least are going to play for IPL teams, and hopefully that should be a launch pad to play in the senior men's team. So fingers crossed for that, because as I was watching the match yesterday, I was getting very nostalgic because we've seen how so many stars have just faded off. The case of Prithvi Shaw, Unmukt Chand. I mean, these are names that just come to your mind, but then there are so many others who have played for India across these years, who don't kind of make a name for themselves. So, fingers crossed to see how these talents are, kind of nurtured, and how they blossom in this system. And although, through this live, we've been speaking so much about the Indian team, let's talk about the Aussie domination, right? Matlab, ICC event in Australia, not winning it just seems like an inseparable entity, right? So, how would you look at this Australia dominance? Because across the men's, women's, and even now the under 19 thing, they just seem to be doing so well. And historically, we have never seen Australia be that, done and dusted unit. So, group stages mein out ho raha hai. They will always go the long way and, prove to be an example for themselves. I think, except the women's under 19 World Cup, they have everything in their cabinet. So, how do you
Yeah.
define this brilliance?
I think we have been talking about this even through our women's games, that I mean, how different the side looks physically, mentally, in terms of how they approach the game. And what I feel about them is that they just know how to convert those final moments. Even if you look into the men's World Cup, I think that particular, I mean, Australia was pretty looking okay, but they were not looking that kind of a dominant side when they had a few struggling moments as well. But that one knock of Maxwell, that knock against Afghanistan, I think it just changed the entire psyche. So something happens, they pick up their momentum from somewhere, they're feeding the energy from somewhere, and they just go at it. Yesterday as well, I mean, the kind of way they kind of I mean, the way they kind of held their nerves even with those early wickets just showed how mentally strong they are. And I somewhere feel that this has to do with something, with the fact that they do not feel so much amount of pressure to perform when it comes to their the fans in their country. So really, that is one of the reasons why they can play so much of fearless cricket. I mean, hardly, probably a very small percentage of Aussie fans follow cricket or understand cricket the way we do, right? So that going ahead and playing a tournament in such a high pressure tournament so freely, I think that somewhere helps them. So yeah, I mean, it's also something on us to think as Indian fans who support the game so passionately, to think that how we can kind of detach ourselves a little bit from the game, so that actually we do good for the sake of it.
Definitely, that's a fair point because I think cricket is kind of ingrained in our DNA, right? I think most of us also got into cricket because of our family influence and everything. And this kind of takes me to this example of Pat Cummins, coming with that World Cup to the Australian airport, and there's like no one to receive him.
Yeah.
It's just another business day for them, winning World Cups, and like cricket is not their primary thing, right? But for us in India, we microscopically, I use the word microscopically because we just do not leave anyone. And now, of course, these under 19 stars are going to come under the scanner, right? So, my next question to you is now, again, these are young under 19 boys. So, how do we nurture them and, kind of look into their well being and future? Because life after under 19 cricket to, your senior levels is, of course, a huge transition, right? So, do you think there should be any sort of special programs or tournaments to kind of ease this transition, or should we just, see them play in leagues like the IPL and domestic cricket and eventually kind of seamlessly transition to the senior team?
I think it will depend on it's a lot more individualistic rather than looking at it in a more general manner. For example, let's talk about the mental side of it first. So even compared to the 2020 team, when I look at compare this team, which is just 3 or 4 years down the lane, especially when it comes to grooming and when it comes to their readiness to handle the press, I see this team a lot more matured. To give you the example of Arshin Kulkarni, just see that guy is just so press ready, and being press ready matters a lot when you are being a part of such a high pressure game. So he just knows how to talk to the press. He just knows how to handle the questions, etc. Compared to if you would still look at a Yashasvi or maybe a Ravi Bishnoi, they still are learning. I mean, we are seeing the Indian team management put Yashasvi on press conferences now a lot more, and probably he's getting groomed. But compared to Arshin, I think Arshin is a lot more matured. This is just an example. Also, the way I mean the way Uday was also handling the press yesterday, I think it was really commendable on how precise they were with respect to their answers, etc. So I think already a lot of grooming is happening. Also, they are probably engrossed a lot more in the game, so they learn a lot and they know what they need to do at the highest stage to really feel belonged in the international circuit. So yeah, I think that's one part of it. With respect to the games, of course, the India's domestic system is pretty formidable, so that's there. But even in comparison to that, I think the IPL system, the kind of high pressure situations that they will be subjected to when it comes to IPL, I think that will automatically put them through a lot of grilling. And also, if you take example of a few, I mean, I'll take names here. But yeah, I mean, you have seen there are many players who have been exceedingly good in the domestic circuit, but has not performed well in the IPL and has hence not got converted into the national side. Now, when we try to be a little, I mean, look at it from a critical angle, we always say that क्या रे यार BCCI तो सिर्फ IPL पे ही focus करती है, but BCCI IPL पे इसलिए शायद focus करती है because that teaches you how to take pressure, which is one of the bigger elements of playing the game in the international stage. I mean, look at Sheldon. Sheldon is a classic example. He's a domestic giant. Look at Dhawal Kulkarni. He's a domestic giant. But their IPL records were not the best enough for them to convert it into an Indian national team. It's unfortunate on their part, but also I think there's a solid amount of a thought process that goes into BCCI's head when they're picking in talents from the IPL as well.
Certainly, and my take on this would be that if there could be like another level of tournaments for them to continue and then ease into the senior team, that would also be great. Because again, with IPL, you see right the price tag pressure comes into play. I think best examples would be like Raj Baba, right? What a World Cup the man had, brilliant all rounder, but now he just seems to have faded out, right? I think at that young age, when that fame and all that prestige, pressure, I know pressure is a privilege, and that's a very corny statement in itself. But then you see, right, how the IPL can be a make or break for most of these cricketers. So I hope a lot of the players, emerging from this system actually go on a long way and actually can contribute to the senior
But
team, right?
just to add on to that, I think the system exists now with the TNPLs and with the MPLs. They are pretty good tournaments. Especially, I've looked into TNPL. TNPL is a quite a good tournament when it comes to the quality of it. Also, if you look into SMAT as a tournament, SMAT is a really good tournament, and it has really got upscaled itself and have had the best of the talents coming in. So I think the at least when it comes to the men's side of things, I think we have certain amount of things in the place. The only thing is that how do you manage this big pool of talents? It's something that BCI really needs to work around. It's not an easy task. I mean, it's really not an easy task for them to handle this as well. But yeah, I think that's where we will need a little bit of working and a little bit of brainstorming. But yeah, over and above, I think that from the men's side of things look pretty rosy.
Definitely. And, I felt this conversation would kind of be incomplete if we don't talk about Soumya Pandey, right? Now, man was the second highest wicket taker, 18 wickets. And he's just been so prolific through the tournament. So, again, he's another exciting talent in the wings. And how do you see his, career trajectory and progression, right? Because he gives us a lot of vibes of, Jadeja playing in an under 19 World Cup. And then we saw how things panned out for him, the IPL contract, and then good performances in the domestic setup and to the Indian team, right? So another talent in the making like that.
Exactly. I think over and above, like if you even if you look into the cluster of players, it just feels like you can just pick these guys and put it in the senior team. Like just put them in clusters, and you will have a second team going in. Of course, it's not that as easy. You will still have to come up through the ranks. But yeah, I mean, it just gives you that kind of a vibe. Uh, Again, similarly for Pandey, similarly for Limbani, similarly for Naman Tiwari. And when these guys kind of talk about the fact that how the senior guys has always been are also in conversation with them and trying to help them out, with respect to their skills. I think that's what also makes a lot of difference. So yeah, I mean the overall bowling perspective, I think it looks really solid. Uh, Unless you, I mean that's something that we really need to look through, because of the fact that we have had this good crop of bowlers coming in as well in the past. We have seen Umran Malik coming in, and we have created a lot of hype about it. How we exactly manage the bowlers with respect to their keeping up their performance and with respect to keeping them injury free is something that which needs to be really thought about.
Definitely, because when we look at India as a country, we definitely don't have any dearth in talent. It's about how you manage them, and hopefully, this World Cup is a stepping stone for a lot of them. I know they haven't landed their hands on that World Cup, but that doesn't take away, from the kind of performances they have had. And even from a larger discourse, are there any other major takeaways or player performances that kind of stood out for you from this World Cup? Because we saw how Nepal had such a brilliant World Cup. Ireland also surprised us with those amazing performances. So anything in particular that's coming like right at the top of your mind as we kind of wind up our discussion?
I think very impressed with, of course, the player of the tournament, South African. How do you say his name? Falke. Uh, Falke.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't got wrapped my head around that one, but yes, I
Yes,
got the
I
player.
think
Yes.
he seems to be one of the guys who can be just taken up and put into the South African national side, and especially with this national side, which has gone to New Zealand. Just a plug-in. He's just a plug-in. Just do that. Give him anyway. You have a very inexperienced side going in there. Give him that opportunity and let him just be in the the realm of things. He's in great form, and maybe you'll just turn around things there. So yeah, I think he was definitely one of the crucial guys that had stood out. Of course, the player of the tournament is a telltale sign of that. But yeah, I mean, beyond all of that as well, the India team definitely looks very strong. Very impressed with Sachin Das, because of course the name says it all. So hopefully, yeah, I mean, good things coming up. A few of them. I just heard that Mushir was also in the IPL scouting, but he has not, of course, made it to the team. But yeah, hopefully that I mean, some things span out there, and until unless the fame and the money and everything around it that comes along with cricket at this level brings along with, and hope there is not another Prithvi showcase, then I think there's everything is in good hands.
Certainly. And as we wrap up our discussion as well, do you have any final thoughts and excited for the next edition of the World Cup? That's probably going to happen in what, another 2 years? I think before that, we may have the women's under 19 World Cup, and we should collaborate for that as well, right?
Yes, exactly. I think that would be exciting. I mean, especially we must look at it from India's point of view, because there's talent pool, but there's the grooming system is not yet as ripe. So that's definitely we should be looking ahead to. But yeah, I mean, with respect to a very interesting stats came up yesterday. I was watching the game with a few friends, and a very interesting stat came up that whenever Australian under 19 team had won the World Cup, and after that they didn't really win the next following senior World Cup. So I think the following year. So yeah, I mean, from that point of view, the Champions Trophy seems to be ours. At least we will not get defeated to Australian side. But yeah, I mean, that's on a lighter note, and hopefully, because yeah, I mean, I don't know whether how much we will be able to really make out of the T20 World Cup this year. Hopefully, we do something about it. But yeah, I mean, looking at this Australian side, I will not keep my hopes high anymore. I'll just go with the flow and kind of keep myself a little bit more protected with respect to my emotions.
Definitely, we have to be grounded because look at the kind of situation that the Indian team find itself. Right, the senior team. We have a test match versus England. KL Rahul, seems to have pulled out. You have Devdutt Padikkal, who has been slotted in. I know this is a discussion for a whole other podcast episode, but perhaps this can be our concluding note. So, what
Yeah,
are
I
your
mean,
thoughts on how things are shaping up for that test match against
I think
England?
it'll be a very exciting test match, is all I can say. And I'm very thrilled to see such a good contest. I mean, I'm pretty certain Rajkot will be a certain amount of a turner, but if not a raging turner, uh, may not be a raging turner. It might be a very similar wicket as in Vizag. But yeah, I mean, some good decisions there, of course. Picking up. I mean, the Rajat Sarfaraz letting DDP another go. I mean, we are always happy for DDP, right? I mean, he still feels like that RCB guy to us. I still can't fathom the fact that he's out of RCB, but yeah, I mean, special feelings going in for Rapa and DDP. So yeah, I mean, hopefully, I mean, and he has just scored a century. This is his second century in Ranji Trophy this year. So hopefully there. But yeah, I mean, I was also hoping that against all odds, that probably Pujara will make a comeback. And yeah, I mean, I was really hoping, because I just as a from a very emotional fandom, I just can't fathom the fact that that uppercut that Pujara played will be the last shot that he has played in international cricket. So I just want Pujara to come back just one more time, and just the way Saurav Ganguly's comeback had happened in the past, maybe just one run for Pujara.
Definitely, fingers crossed for that because for a lot of us, who think Test cricket is the pinnacle, players like this really are, the hallmark and flag bearers of this format, right? Rahane, Pujara, and all of these guys. And I think Pujara also played, no, one under 19 World Cup. Why do I remember that picture of his? I think it was like
I don't know. I
2004,
don't recall.
2006.
But yeah, I
Yeah.
think I think this year Pujara's form has been phenomenal. 1 200, 100, a couple of good other good knocks, which were very solid. And look at the way, I mean, Saurashtra is a how they are becoming the next Mumbai in the Ranji circuit. How they are actually being revered for that. So I think, I mean, class players. Everybody stands up in the right time. They play like a unit. So yeah, I mean, great things coming up from that domestic squad. So I'm always very excited to look at Saurashtra these days. Also, I have been a huge fan of Jadeja all through my life, so pretty much have a lot of love for Saurashtra from that front. But yeah, over and above, I think Pujara back to the squad will be something I look forward to sometime in future, if at all it happens.
Yes, yes, definitely. And yeah, that pretty much does conclude our discussion. To all our viewers, how many ever you are, you will catch Tommy and I live during the cricket.com live as well because the Women's Premier League, this is the Women's Premier League month, and we cannot contain our excitement. We will be doing a lot of watch alongs there as well. So yeah, catch us live then. And yeah, Tommy, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you for joining me on the podcast. It's 10 p.m. on Monday, and we did a half an hour live. So kudos to us on that. And definitely, it's always lovely to have conversations with you. Looking forward to a lot of collaborations like this. And yeah, for all our viewers, next time please do ask us questions. We'll be very happy to answer them. And yeah, that's all for now from us. Thank you so much. Good night.
Good night.